right. Hey, Adeline, thanks for the introduction, and hello everyone. Thank you for joining us in this conversation today. Really excited to be here and represent Natural Wireless. I would like to address the topic of what do developers want simply by speaking from our experience about ways that we have been able to assist developing multifamily properties in achieving their desires. But first, for a short introduction to Natural Wireless, we are an internet service provider, privately owned and operated, in business for about 22 years now. And while we have several verticals in the multifamily space, we are a pioneer in developing and managing a premium building-wide Wi-Fi experience. But with that said, let's talk about the developers. Here is a quote from one of the partners, longtime partner that we have worked with, an executive from the Durst Organization. As smart building technology and IoT adoption continue to grow, Natural Wireless's infrastructure positions us to stay ahead of the curve. Their scalable solutions are helping us future-proof our properties. And just to speak in a little more detail on this example, this executive came to us several years ago with the desire to deploy around 1,000 smart thermostats in a new development of his with over 900 units in every apartment, in the public areas, back of house spaces, throughout the entire building. And he came with us with the desire to have a private and hidden, password protected building-wide Wi-Fi network. Again, in every apartment, common areas, residential corridors, throughout the entire property, with its own dedicated bandwidth, strictly just for the smart devices, smart thermostats, and other IoT and smart technologies throughout his property. And in doing so, right, the big benefit he gains from having this building-wide Wi-Fi network, one single dedicated network for these devices, he's able to onboard them, making them, again, as Adeline mentioned, move-in ready for the residents, offering that convenience and luxury for the residents, as opposed to having, the building next door, for example, who might have just slapped the thermostats on the wall and asked the residents to onboard them to get them connected to their own private network after they move in. Furthermore, the building gets the ability to have remote management capabilities over these devices as they are on the building owned and operated network. For example, you gain the power to now control the temperature of a vacant unit without sending someone up there, because again, these devices are on your network as opposed to, being on the resident's network in their apartment. To touch on some other examples, many other forms of prop tech and smart devices and IoT devices. We've had partners of ours who wanted to have smart refrigerators on their network, devices like security systems or smart door locks or any other tech devices throughout the building that, help the property with operational efficiency and, again, ease of use for building operations, property managers, and staff. We've had other requests and desires from partners that we've worked with, folks who want to have connectivity throughout the entire building, for example, for the leasing agents and their tablets, taking a prospective resident on a tour. That tablet can be connected throughout the entire building, the same concept. It can be connected in every apartment. For example, you can be in Unit 5J and showing a resident the floor plan of Unit 16C, different plans and pricing and amenities throughout the building. But the crux of it is that tablet, not just in their office and amenity space, it can be connected throughout, again, the entire property. Same concept for Wi-Fi calling and radios. Let's look at supers who rarely have cell phone service throughout the building in the back of house spaces or on the higher floors of the property, wasting time because there's a vendor standing in the lobby trying to call that super or that maintenance person trying to get them access to the property. And they have no cell service to communicate with that person waiting in the lobby. We've had developers who they can invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into deploying a DAS system to get cell service in those upper floors, or instead, some of our partners have foregone that DAS system and investing all of that money into amplifying cell service throughout the property, and instead depend on building-wide Wi-Fi calling. Same thing for two-way radios. Very expensive investment to buy the fancy two-way radios for your staff to communicate with each other throughout the building. Other partners we've worked with have begun deploying two-way radio apps that allow them to replace those devices with much more cost-efficient ones that can communicate simply over a building-wide Wi-Fi network. And a very cool feature of one of these also, push to talk, right, over Wi-Fi. You can have translated messages over voice going from one device to another. I thought that was a really cool feature of some of these. And then, of course, lots of partners interested in generating revenues and increasing NOI. And that is absolutely something that you can achieve via the internet providers in your building. And you absolutely should be. Which brings me to really the approaches that you can take as a building owner and operator. The next thing I wanted to touch on during my time speaking here was all the different terms that are getting thrown around the industry with internet services and in multifamily properties. Revenue generating models, for example, bulk versus retail. I'm sure many of you have heard of the term bulk. Some may have not, but to speak on bulk quickly, the concept is a building owner operator can invest in the internet service, buying it wholesale at a wholesale rate, committing to paying for all of the apartments at once, and then reselling the service to residents for a profit. Very simple way to generate revenues in your building in a rental property. But furthermore, you can do it in a condominium property where you're able to get a wholesale rate, a very discounted rate, again, by buying service for all of the apartments at once and getting a nice wholesale rate for the HOA and all the condo units in your building. Very common concept, especially in the Miami market where, many new luxury condominium buildings are being developed, and you can simply have one internet provider covering all the apartments. This is now compared to the retail model where the developer, building owner, operator can bring in several internet providers and everyone's competing together, equal opportunity, and all the residents can choose whichever internet provider they want. Either way, you should absolutely be generating revenues off of the internet providers that you allow into your building. Going back to the desires of developers, I've had many developers tell me, Matt, I'm not interested in being a utilities provider. I don't want to invest in internet and do this bulk route and be responsible for reselling the service to residents. No problem. You still can absolutely let several providers into your building, have them compete with each other, and generate revenues in the form of revenue sharing and allowing the providers that you let into your building to share a piece of the pie with you. Another term that I'd like to touch upon now, going back to really everything we're discussing today, is building-wide managed Wi-Fi. And this is what allows all of the luxuries and premium benefits that we've been speaking upon today. Everything Adeline's mentioning about move-in ready and the building-wide Wi-Fi experience, the being always connected everywhere throughout your property. This is the crux of what we want to be discussing today. That is a pre-installed system. This is what allows, for example, Wi-Fi access for the smart thermostats in every apartment, Wi-Fi access for door locks and lighting, and the two-way radio apps throughout the entire building. When you have a building-wide managed Wi-Fi provider in your building, services not just managed Wi-Fi and pre-installed in your common areas and offices and back of house spaces, but rather in every apartment as well, such that let's say one of you on this call here today is in a building that has pre-installed building-wide Wi-Fi. You can pick up your laptop or phone with you right now and maintain this video call seamlessly, uninterrupted as you leave your apartment, walk down the hallway, go into the elevators, the roof, the gym, the lounge, the lobby, and be seamlessly connected throughout the entire property. And that is in comparison to the traditional internet experience where, your residents move in, they have to make a phone call, schedule an appointment, wait for that appointment, pay for that appointment, and get internet installed at a later time. And you only have internet access for you in your apartment. Maybe you have some managed Wi-Fi in the common areas, maybe not. Maybe you just have a router in the common areas, things that we can discuss at a later time. But it's a much different experience from having the seamless building-wide experience. And so, yeah, that's about the end of my presentation here. Let's carry on into the panel, guys.